first we do a Korean action adventure drama that's getting great reviews in Moving. And now we get to do a Japanese manga, anime. The history is rich with One Piece.
Yes.
But it's been Americanized, and it's on Netflix, and everybody's talking about it. And the first episode that we're about to review is an hour long. So tell me what you learned throughout your research on this. Neither of us have read the manga series, watched the anime, know any of the canon. So this mostly is going to be about the episode itself and whether it made good TV. That's why it's today's episode and not another podcast, which is probably going deep into the lore.
I did watch the first episode of the pilot a couple months ago, and then I actually rewatched it a couple days ago.
You got the pilot? They dropped it for you?
The pilot, the anime pilot.
Oh, the anime
that came out in
pilot.
1999. It came out 2 years after the anime. And I thought that since the fan base is so big that I would watch the first season of the show. But then, because it's only like 20 to 25 minutes each episode, there's 61 episodes in the first season of this thing. It has close to 1,100 episodes that have aired. It's in its 20th season. It's the 9th longest running anime of all time.
Not surprised. This and Naruto, I know, are like the two big ones.
Right.
I would have thought that they were the top 5, not top 11 or whatever you just said.
But going into the actual thing, I think it's best to start this off with a 3 truths, 1 lie game. It's about the actual series itself, this series. So, Iñaki Godoy would blast the John Cena music. He was the person who starred as Monkey in this show. Would blast the John Cena / rock theme song every time he arrived on set. Second...
Wait, so you're saying this kid actor had enough, like, balls to just walk on set and say, and play this music
every
himself?
single time he was driving in, he would play this song for himself.
No. He was just playing it in the car to, like, pump himself up.
Well, he would blast it when he was arriving on set.
Okay, if you
and
say
then the
so.
second one is the manga is still going. However, Ichiro Oda, he's the creator, has said that it's in its final arc and could end in the next few years despite the strong fan
I can
base.
never see this ending. Yeah.
Okay. Number 3 is much like the Americans, but with wigs. There were dozens of straw hats made for every scene to reflect the mood of Luffy, the main character.
Their hair and their hats and everything about even the glasses, the costuming is supposed to be representative of their mood, so I believe that.
And then the last one is Ichiro Oda had been trying to get a live-action adaptation of the show made since 1997 when the manga came out, but when the anime came out in 1999.
So he was trying to get an Americanized version or just a Japanese version?
A film adaptation.
A film adaptation. Also very believable. What was the second one?
The second one was the manga is still going.
But that it's looking to close off.
Yes, that's still going.
I think that one might be the lie.
Actually, that one is the truth.
Okay.
He has said
it's not
that
the truth because there's 3 truths,
he's
right?
saying,
so which is the lie?
Well, the lie is that he was trying to get a live-action film adaptation because he said for the longest time he didn't want to do a One Piece live-action.
That makes
One
sense.
was because of the CG and VFX. He thought that it was never going to be able to kind of match the of film vision that he had.
And even now in 2023, most films that come out with crazy CGI, they get panned. Because, like, even the last Flash movie, which in and of itself I enjoyed, it's still kind of like, it was daunting how bad the CGI was.
But actually, that fear kind of went away after a while because he saw that VFX did get better. But the biggest reason was because he thought that they were never going to be able to find someone who could play Luffy the way that he was in the anime and in the manga. And here, Ichiro Oda was a big fan. When he saw the audition tape for Iñaki Godoy, he started laughing, and that's a huge reason as to why the main actor got the main role for this thing.
It does feel like all the main characters are fans of the anime series, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean,
that's just the impression I got.
Yes, no, you're 100% right, because Iñaki Godoy, he reminds me...
Are you having fun with these names?
He reminds me a lot of Iman Vellani. She was the person who played Miss Marvel. I remember when we were doing that, you were talking about how much she was a fan of the Miss Marvel series.
How much she is that character in real life, because that character is supposed to be a huge fan. Now, this is a little different,
Well, it's actually the exact same, especially when it comes to just the videos where you see Iñaki Godoy, he went to the studio, he met Ichiro Oda, and, like, it just seems like he cares about this character so much.
What I meant is that Miss Marvel in the comic books was a fan of the Marvel characters.
Yeah.
And so this isn't as meta as that, because the main character does not know about One Piece, the comic, or the manga. They know about One Piece, the treasure hunt. I didn't have any idea what that meant. until they described it in the first few minutes of the narration.
It's like the first 5 minutes, yeah.
Okay,
and
so
do you know who was the narrator?
No, I knew who the narrator was, and I re-went back and listened to that like 4 times, and I still couldn't figure out exactly whose voice it was. At one point, I thought it was the guy from Fringe, that John, whatever his name is, but who is it?
It's Ian McShane. He did 1,000 times a better job being a narrator here than when he was the narrator in Hellboy in like 2019, the remade version.
Ian McShane, of course, from Game of Thrones and all that jazz, yeah. Episode 1, yeah, John Wick, and he's been in, what was that Andy Samberg dumb Hot Rod movie?
Hot Rod, yeah.
Wasn't he in that as well? Okay. Episode 1, it's called Romance Dawn. Can you explain to me the title? Because this is an exciting adventure comedy. It didn't feel like a romance.
Romance Dawn is actually the first title of the manga. In fact, they're actually taking the first 100 chapters of that story, and they're making it, and they're like cramming it all into these 8 episodes.
Oh, into the 8 episodes, I think.
No, not all into the first episode.
Yeah.
But actually, in the first 20 minutes, we do kind of get the first episode of the anime and the first couple chapters wrapped up. Like,
how much did it follow the anime pilot?
The anime pilot is like the first 20 minutes of this TV show. Aside from the beginning scene where we see... But
like scene by scene, where you were able to map it out?
When they
everything that's about to happen.
When they get onto Alvida's ship,
yes,
that is basically the first episode of the anime.
Okay, well that's pretty early on, because you start off in Logetown. It's 22 years in the past, but they don't give us a date for when exactly this is. You've got the pirates, and then you have the Marines, and the Marines are supposed to be like the government that cracked down on the pirates, and the pirates are, of course, pirates. You've got the good ones, the bad ones, but the big king pirate, it's the pirate king, is Gold Roger, and he is at his own public execution. Did you recognize who played him?
No.
Michael Dorman. I was able to see him through the costuming. I was like, I know that's Gordo from For All Mankind putting on an accent, and he, as a pirate, is talking about wealth, fame, power, and how all that can be any person's out there if they go and hunt this treasure, the One Piece, and that's when they kill him.
just like the first scene from the manga.
But unlike most public executions where people cheer when the person dies, like that's the whole point. The government tries to like either scare their people or it seems to infuse them all with the want or need to go out and search for the One Piece.
They're running around there, yeah.
Everybody gets in their ship and like starts sailing away as if they know where it is. But as the guy just said, like it's in the sea. So if the sea is the same sea that we're in here on Earth, like how would anybody know where to even start?
I think they were just wanting to get a head start on like where it could be. It could be anywhere.
Hence begins the great pirate era where everybody's trying to become a pirate, and we zoom up 22 years. It's the East Blue Sea, and we get our main character living out his life of pie life because he's on a boat with a seagull that has like a hat on, and it seems to be it's like a Harry Potter seagull where it delivers the mail for you.
Did you think that it was going to be a main character, I guess, in the show?
I had no idea. I didn't know if it was going to. The show reminded me a little bit of Avatar, and Avatar has a lot of.
Yeah, I mean, it reminded me completely of Avatar.
Okay, well, Avatar, and also not moving, but the recent show that we've seen that has like animal sidekicks. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they don't. So I wasn't sure if this was going to be one of those. It was Ahsoka. That was the one. Right. Yeah, where it had the little animal sidekick. But yeah, so his boat is sinking, but he's pretty cool with that. He jumps in a barrel and suddenly he's in the ocean.
So that showed us how he got in the barrel. In the anime, he just shows up on the ship in the barrel. We actually don't know how he showed up there. So I was glad that we got context in this, in the live action as opposed to the anime.
Yeah, it did a good job like showing the different tone that we got. Because the first scene was all, again, adventure. This scene is all about the comedy and how the main character really has no fear or ever feels stress. Like things could be going really terribly.
That is exactly like Monkey.
Monkey D. Luffy, right?
Yep.
And so then he is just strolling around in that barrel, unable to see anything in the middle of the ocean. And then we see these we see one pirate ship facing another ship. And there's like cannons going off, and one of them has a big old heart logo on it, right? Yep. And that's Alvida's ship, right? Alvida's
straight out of the anime, yes.
And she's on a path for destruction because she's actually not after the treasure. She's actually after this guy named the Pirate Hunter, who I guess hunts pirates.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty simple. And she's pretty mean to her crew. Kobe, the deckhand, who I thought was going to be a main character until the end of the episode when they kind of just split up.
I was so glad.
Is he in the comic?
Wasn't. So I think he is in the comic. He definitely is in the anime.
That's what I meant.
He was my least favorite character from the anime, my least favorite character here, but for completely different reasons. Kobe in the anime, it's 1999, so they had a lot of characters like this when it was coming out, but so expressive. His voice almost reminded me of Dora, where it's so high pitched. Everything that happens to him is like the end of the world, and I just had I had enough of him by the end of the first episode.
Him in the face a little bit.
Yes,
grow up.
Here though, it seems like his character is almost completely different.
Yeah, so Alvida just murders some of the people on the boat, which again is just like, okay, so this is not just for kids. There's definitely some violence here. Yep. And she makes Kobe clean it up. And we find out when he goes downstairs to, I guess, clean her blade or whatever that mallet thing is that she has. That's when he sees, I guess, Luffy pop out of that barrel, which the ship has picked up as like loot. And they have a funny little interchange where they're trying to figure out who each is, and we find out that Kobe wants to be a Marine.
Yep.
That's his dream, even though he's working on a pirate ship. And Monkey D. Luffy's like, chase your dream. And we just get like this interaction.
Straight out, I think you also learn that Monkey wants to be the king of pirates.
Yes, and this is also where we get a backflash within the episode that's already given us a backflash, but this time it's just of Monkey D. Luffy's life. And at first he was a street urchin, and he wanted to be a pirate, and then he ate this weird fruit, right? A devil fruit.
The gum fruit.
The gum fruit that made him into a plastic man, where he can just extend his arms and his legs. And the guy is basically immortal because once they get up to the top of the ship and they're discovered by Alvida's crew and he starts fighting Alvida and the rest of them, one guy just rifles off a shot right into his chest. And at this point, I'm like, oh man, this is going to affect him in some way. It just bounces right off of him. And at that point, I'm like, okay, so this means that this entire show is based on the premise. No wonder this guy is so laid back, because nothing can hurt him. Yes. Absolutely nothing can hurt him.
And in the anime, I was really excited because he just takes out the complete pirate ship because he's just rubber in the anime. Like, he continually does
That's what he does here.
Well, I mean...
To a lesser extent.
But to a way lesser extent. Like, you see him take out the entire crew in the first episode. Here, he kind of just punches Alvida.
No, I mean, he took out a lot of the crew, I think. He punched more than just Alvida, if I remember correctly. But he knocks her off the ship, and then they go off on their own little boat. They leave the rest of Alvida's crew to, I guess, man it and go away. But there is an explosion in the background, which makes me think maybe they did blow up the ship.
I would think so.
Remember,
that's why
Kobe looked at the back and he's like, yeah. And
I remember.
You see the fire in the background. So they're off on their own, and that's when we meet the pirate hunter guy that Alvida was after, Rwanda Zoro.
Yes, every single person, the fan base, was so happy that they chose that actor, Makenyu, I think his name is, to play Zoro.
And why is that?
His dad is one of the few famous people who became famous in like worldwide recognition for martial arts. And you can see it whenever this guy is doing his action scenes. He has the best action scenes. He was, like, I thought the coolest character out of all of them. I mean, like...
But he was your favorite character going into the show, yeah?
Yes.
So this just met your expectations.
And also, I mean, doing the 3 swords. He said that he had to do jaw exercises because he's done a lot of TV shows where he does 2 swords, but 3 swords was, like, a different thing for him.
So we're going to get more of him sticking that thing into his mouth?
Yes, I think that's, like, the main character trait for him.
The weird thing is, at this point in the story, there are 3 things to make this pilot successful that I knew going in. They needed to introduce us to the characters. They needed to impress us with just the fact that they made it live action. And then they also needed to not insult the source material, right?
Yes.
And so the immediate comparison I was thinking of for a US remake was Death Note. Because a few years ago, Netflix tried the same thing, huge Japanese manga series turned anime, and they just did not do it well enough. Like, it just, what?
Not only Death Note, it was also Cowboy Bebop that they tried to do.
But with Bebop, I saw where it had its moments, and I think their Jet character...
And not only Ghost, it also Ghost in the Shell, which came out in 2017. The thing that I am so glad this show did is they took Ichiro Oda, and they did not do a single decision without his permission. In fact, he was even asked about those failed kind of live-action anime remakes, and he said, thankfully, Netflix agreed they wouldn't go out with the show until I agreed it was satisfactory. And he even called himself a guard dog for the series, because if there was one decision that that he hated, he did not have a problem telling them. He was like, no, I do not want that to happen. He was almost in complete control of this thing, even though I don't think he directed or wrote any of the episodes.
Yeah, it felt well written, and also it was surprisingly straightforward for a story that I knew was going to be super dense.
Yes.
Like, it's existed for so long. It's kind of like with Pokemon. The original movie or series, like, they had a very simple story about how Ash met Pikachu, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like always very memorable. And this felt a little bit like that. It also felt like early seasons of The Walking Dead. But the biggest thing that it reminded me of is Dungeons and Dragons.
That's what okay, so the biggest thing it reminded me of was Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because they are pirates, but I'm talking about the Dungeons and Dragons thing that came out earlier this year with
the film.
Chris Pine and how they needed to accrue a gang together of misfits. They didn't necessarily want to be working with each other, except like Chris Pine is kind of a goofball, kind of like Monkey is, and they got to go like not hunt for treasure. They're actually trying to save his daughter. But even the girl character, what's her name in this? Nami. She reminded me a lot of the tiefling character, the girl from It that was in Dungeons and Dragons.
The shapeshifter.
Yes, and it just feels like now they're assembling like an op team, except for Kobe. Everybody's got fighting powers. But with Rondo Zoro, you wouldn't think that he would want to join the pirates. But it's funny because
he initially doesn't.
The entire episode, a bunch of different agencies are trying to recruit him for their own. The first thing we see is this assassin group called the Baroque Works, who I think we're going to see more of, and Mr. Seven, who's saying, on Sixus Island, you have to join us or else I'm going to have to kill you. And that's where we see Zoro's skills come out, and he Darth Mauls him.
Yes.
He cuts him straight in half.
That was cool.
Yeah. And then later on, we see Zoro talking directly to the Marines, and the main Marine guy wants to have him on their side as well. He says no to that. It's not until he kind of gets approached by Luffy later on in kind of a passive manner where he decides to help them out because of Luffy freeing him from his little cage or whatever he was in. Yeah. All in all, the thing that I think that they're really reaching towards is this trying to get the One Piece, right?
Yes.
And it feels like if the series has existed for this long, they haven't been able to get it yet. And the thing is, it reminds me a lot of the Puss in Boots thing, because remember how in Puss in Boots 2, they needed to get a map. They needed to steal the map from a bad guy. That when the map is in a big old chest, in this case, it was a locked box.
And the map was supposed to get them a wish, right?
Once the map opened up, then it showed them this really dangerous place that they had to get through. Mm-hmm. And the map here is supposed to take them to, what's the place called? I'm looking in my notes. It's supposed to take them to a location, not necessarily exactly where the One Piece is, but like this really like dangerous place that they have to go through. So it reminds me of a lot of stuff just melded together. I also liked how like the power giving thing that he took, the thing that he ate.
The fruit.
It looked like gillyweed from Harry Potter, where like as soon as Harry ate it, he sprouted gills and was able to breathe underwater. Like his thing was just that he became super plastic.
So did you like the series? Like,
I really liked this episode. Okay. Somehow, again, with the costumes, they were able to make the hair color, blonde, pink, red, green, brown, the glasses, the straw cap. Everybody had their own unique trait. Yep. So it was easy and memorable every time a character was introduced. How much they were able to get done in this one episode. There was good CGI, but you got the team formation. You've got how he got his power. And then you also have a fighting boss level at the end of it.
Axe-Hand Morgan and his crew.
Yeah, but it wasn't really his crew. It was just him. And usually it might take a full half a season before you find out how someone got his power. But like, it felt like it was almost the beginning of a full movie.
Well, what was strange about it was, as I said, the anime takes place kind of when they're on the ship. That's where the full 20 minutes. But when it came to the manga, I read the very beginning of it. It starts off with the death of the pirate, telling him about the One Piece and everyone running around. And then it cuts to right to Monkey Luffy's kind of backflash that they showed in this episode. But you really do get kind of his backstory.
We haven't talked about too much of any of his backstory besides him getting the ability. The people he was with, that other
Shanks.
pirate, Shanks and Rue, right?
Yes.
Yes. So what's the deal with them? Because they seem like good pirates, like good guys. They came in and they kind of taught Luffy that patience was key, that he didn't necessarily have to be violent with people.
Because
Luffy in the future seems to have taken that to heart.
Yeah, well, Luffy, when he was like 10 years old, is saying how much he wants to join them.
But he even stops Zoro from killing the main Marine guy, right? And I feel like it's weird because we've seen other people die. Like
in the episode, you mean?
Like when they were fighting that last big boss battle, his people, they didn't have a problem killing any of the sidekicks. But when it came to the main villain, it felt like, he was going. And then also his son. The worst thing they did to the son, who was like kind of a Game of Thronesian egomaniac kid, they just cut his hair. Just to it. That was the only thing, and I'm sure he's going to be back.
Well, I think the show is TV PG, so I think that they're really trying to get the family audience.
Well, we did see Alvida bludgeon the guy's head into jam.
Yeah, but you didn't actually see him die. You didn't see his dead body.
But they're not afraid to show death, is what I'm.
Yes,
saying.
no, I think that it also reminded me a little bit of Stranger Things from season 1, the same type of tone that it was going for.
I didn't get that.
Really? Because I was saying more kind of how dark it was going. Haunting?
Yeah. The genre-meld is kind of like steampunkish.
Yes.
Even though it's in the past, you got the goofy violence. Even at the end, you had the Batman Joker, Buggy, the killer clown. He popped up there.
Buggy the clown, yeah.
I just loved how they kept introducing villains at the very end. This is what you're going to get in the next few scenes or whatever, or in the next few episodes.
Well, for following the anime, Alvida, I don't even think is dead. She shows up again.
We saw her wanted poster later on, and I'm pretty sure that she'll return again. There were a few cliches. Remember when we did the South Korean moving show? Which have you continued at all?
No. Have you?
I watched the second episode of it. It continues to be good. It's really great having seen that one. And then this one, 2 fun adventure comedies. That one has a little bit more dramatic heft behind it. So definitely for a more mature audience. But there is humor in the high school storyline. South Korean wrist grab. Remember? They did grab his wrist. Then the MC being super hungry. That was straight out of Ninja Turtles, straight out of Flash, straight out of Death Note, characters just needing to eat to maintain their energy.
I mean, I think that's just an anime thing usually.
Yeah.
Because even in Dragon Ball Z,
and
I know
Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, everybody always wants to eat.
And they always eat it so quickly. I can almost see the picture in the manga series where they're just,
That happened in the Flash too, didn't it? The Flash movie?
What I literally just said. Yeah. And now that I think about it, they did show when I said they Darth Mauled the guy. That was a pretty violent death right there too.
Yeah, but I'm saying that...
And then he took his body. He took the half part of his body and brought it to a bar. And it was really cool to see all the characters just show up at that bar. The normal things I would pick apart and be like, well, this didn't make sense in the plot holes. It just felt like there was enough of a giant world that they're living in where it just made sense.
So what would you give the show overall?
I was even thinking about giving it a 9. But I will probably give it the same. I'll give Moving, so 8.5 again. So 2 8.5s in a row.
And I would give it the same. I gave Moving, which was an 8 out of 10.
Yeah. I mean, this is a good show, and I think the reviews will probably reflect that.
Well, before I get to the reviews, they actually shot this in South Africa. I think it's South Africa's largest ever production.
Wow.
And I wouldn't even be surprised, even though I haven't found anything to verify this, that's one of the most expensive shows ever made.
No.
I was seeing it. This costs a lot of money. A lot of money.
Maybe just for the rights.
I know that places like MovieWeb.com touted it as the best live-action anime adaptation of all time before it came out, and then after it came out, it seems like it's that way, but you have to remember, you're basing it off of Cowboy Bebop and the Death Note films. So it didn't seem like it was that far.
Didn't have a bar?
Yeah, it didn't have a bar that had across. It was super low, basically. It has an 82% on Rotten Tomatoes, audience score 94%, 8.6 on IMDb. That's probably going to go down to an 8. But it seems like the people gave the premiere Vulture 4 out of 5, Guardian 3 out of 5, Decider said stream it. And it seems like people are really enjoying it so far.
And that's nowhere a surprise for me. We did kind of gloss over the second half of the episode, so I feel bad about that. It did feel like the Nami character. What is her motivation again? Her parents died by pirates. And so everybody who's joining Luffy's crew of pirates hates pirates.
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah. It seems that it's that way on a lot of shows that center
and
around.
And yet the guy's who wants to be the biggest, best swordsman of all time, right? He fights like a pirate. Like, what other character in any... Ninjas don't stick swords in their mouths.
Well, I have to actually... So the people that did the soundtrack for this thing, they originally sent in like a 3.5-minute video of different sounds and soundtracks and music, and then that's what ended up making the people choose them to do the music for it. But for every single sword that Zoro has, they have their own instrument dedicated to it.
Yeah, and he seems really into his swords, because like when the blonde guy that took it, the guy that he looks so much like one of the smug characters from Game of Thrones, not the original series, but the sequel series.
Oh, Heart of the Dragon?
I was about to call it Rings of Powers. Yes. It's not Heart of the Dragon, but it's something very similar. House of the Dragon.
House of the Dragon.
Yeah, but I do like the setups that they're providing. I do think it was good that Kobe might turn into like a villain, but he also sort of saved the day at the end there.
And it seems like the people that are creating this thing, they've worked on a lot of different of the Marvel shows, like Daredevil and Luke Cage. And
those are the ones that I'd want being part of this, less so the ones from the more recent Marvel series.
They're taking a lot from the manga as opposed to the anime, because they kind of want to leave the anime as it is and let people enjoy kind of two different versions of the same story. I know that there are
Sword Art Online. Yeah.
There are people like the Usopp Pirates and Django and some other people that don't show up in the series, kind of like how Ed does not show up for the most part in Cowboy Bebop. So if you're looking...
Can Ed show up in this? That would be, because I didn't miss Ed's character in Cowboy Bebop, so if they could just like throw Ed here, I think they would fit in. I forgot if it was a he or a she. That was the whole point,
It was
right?
a she.
It was a she? Okay,
yeah.
All right. Just do the arm thing over the head.
Actually,
else?
So they made a huge arm in the very early process of making this TV show. Instead of, they ended up going with special effects, but that place made a huge arm, and they were thinking about using it in the actual fight scenes. But then they realized soon afterwards that they were not going to be able to do so, because like it was a prop, and there was no way to make it look realistic.
Yeah, no, I can see that. The Space Jam thing is what I thought you were going to tell me, was that they used like the Michael Jordan extension thing that they did there, but because that was one of the earliest versions of CGI in a film, when they mixed Looney Tunes in with live action. So yeah, that would have been a cool set of people to bring in, and would have been a great set of trivia.
I think actually though the set design is probably one of the best parts of this show when it comes to how detailed it was.
Yeah, that reminds me. So like one of the cities that they go to, and they have so many, so I'm not sure, but it did look like, again, the game, like the actual Game of Thrones, Daenerys' place that she breaks into in like season 4 or something, where the giant castle landscape and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
It just, the outside layer of it looked so similar to that. But yeah. Anything else you want to say?
No, that's about it.
Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Bye.
Bye.